Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Let me be sure that we can hear me. May I have our responses on the chat so that I'm sure that we all can hear me? Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Um, okay, all right. Thank you, everybody, for your responses and confirmation. Um, All right, it's good to be here today. This is the second class this week, and I hope that we are all excited to be here this evening. We have quite a bit of some other things to still look at, and we would pick from that in today's class. Before we go on, as usual, I would like that every one of us, as you have, please drop one key lesson from the last session. One key thing from the last session, drop that on the chat for me, and we pick it up from there. So let's be fast with that. One key learning from our last session. Flash fill, interesting. Okay, good. Trim. All right. Find, Eunice. Okay. Control E. Okay. Left, mid, right. Good. Text extraction. Ayomide. Good. Volatile functions, Aisha, excellent. To combine texts with the ampersand, that's interesting. Run between, okay. Concatenate, excellent. Trim, flash fill, data cleaning functions like left, right, good. Control E, all right. Looks like something has not been mentioned by anybody. Yeah, we use ampersand. How to hide columns, interesting. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Control zero. Good. Thank you for our feedback. Thanks a lot for that. Just quickly before we go into the conversation for today, the file that we'll be using for today's class has been shared. I want you all to confirm on the chat if you have the file downloaded and you have it up on your laptop. If you do, please type a yes on the chat for me. If you have the file downloaded and you have it up on your laptop, yes on the chat. If you do not, you might need to get back to the Telegram channel to pick the file from there. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. So let's get right into this. We have looked at a couple of things before now, a couple of functions. We looked at some functions that are related to numbers. We looked at functions that are related to text. And today, we want to look at functions that are related to lookups. A number of things will be asked. Number one is, what is lookup? And why do you have to do lookup? When this has been established, so when you know what lookup is and why you are to do lookup, then the very next thing we'll be talking about is how then do you do lookup in Excel? And we now go on to look at how can you be more efficient with how you do your lookups in Excel. It's going to be very interesting, I promise, but we need to take things in bits so that it is pretty clear, very, very clear. So once you get the fundamentals, once you get the concept clear, then it will be somewhat easy for you to implement whatever you want to go about implementing. If you don't have the file, you need to return to the Telegram channel, go pick the file, and please make it a habit whenever you're coming to the class, especially while we're still on Excel, go back to the Telegram channel to pick the file before you come to class. So there most likely will be a file that will be used for all the sessions, at least for Excel. Yeah. All right. You're not in the class group. That's you probably would have missed out on a lot of things, and this probably the eighth class or the seventh class, if I'm not mistaken. You need to get your ways around how you will be on that group. All right. So let's look at this very quickly. When we talk about lookup in Excel, I will use this case study. This is a case study we want to use to drive this conversation, and so that we are not speaking out of context. If you can see my screen now, you probably, excuse me, you would see a schedule here. So we have a schedule here, and this schedule we want to, it's for our staff, the employees of an organization, and we sort of want to use this to prepare their salaries. What we want to do here, for those of us that you are engaged with an organization or two, or I said two, with an organization at the moment, you would have an idea of what all of this means. So this is how organizations would typically break down people's salaries. So there will be a portion of the total amount that comes into the individual's account. There will be a portion of it that is the basic salary, the housing, for transport, leave, meal, utility, and the gross pay. Now, what we want to do today is that for each of these persons, we want to populate what their basic salary would be. So, for example, we have this guy here, Kosoko Dayo David, who works in finance department and who is on the semi-senior grade level. We want to know what the guy's basic salary is, what his housing allowance would be, what his transport allowance will be, what his leave allowance will be, the meal, utility, and gross pay. How do we then go about this? However, you are not supposed to cook all these numbers. Every organization already do have a standard. The organization has a standard, and so for the standard, then you need to just refer to what the standard is. So this is what we have for the organization. If you look at this, you'll see that for each of the grade levels that we have in the organization, from SA to director, we have the breakdown of all their salaries. If somebody is on the SA level, the individual would have a basic salary of 310,000, housing salary of 150, transport days, leave days, meal, utility, and the gross pay. This is how the salary is structured. What we need to do now is to come here to, on our database, populate the blank spaces here based on the portion of the salary that we want to populate. So by that part of the salary that we want to populate, I mean whether basic housing or the rest of it, we go find these numbers on this particular worksheet. This explains the concept of lookup. What does this mean? It just implies that you have some data points. There are some other data points that you need to pull from somewhere else. Think about it like you are at a level. Then you need to look up something from somewhere and bring it into where you currently are at the moment. That is really what lookup means. You have something, you need something else, you want to use what you have to go get what you need. That is lookup in Excel. When we talk about lookups in Excel, this is an operation that you cannot shy away from in your data journey. Many times, you probably would have a data file like the database that you see here, and then you are to get information from another file. or another worksheet or another portion of the same worksheet. But essentially is you are somewhere like this, yeah, and then you need to go to somewhere like this to pick some information. Does this make sense to us? Before we proceed, we need to take it in steps so that we are sure that we are not leaving anyone behind. Responses. Are we good to go? Shall we proceed? All right. When you want to do lookup in Excel, there are a lot of functions that you can use to do lookups in Excel. Okay, come again. No. Okay, fine. What we are saying about lookup is that there are certain information that you need, which you have on maybe a different workbook entirely, or a different worksheet, or a different part of the same worksheet. So those are the three places you might be looking towards getting something from. It's either a different workbook, a different worksheet, or a different portion of the same worksheets. Regardless of where that information is, the point is you want to bring that information into the worksheets that you are currently working on. The fact that you want to bring that information into the worksheets that you are currently on, that is what would necessitate you to carry out an operation in Excel, and this operation is called lookup. Look up. When you now want to do lookup in Excel, there are a number of functions that you can use to do lookups in Excel. If you go again to our formula tab, you come here to our formula tab. Sorry, let me activate my zoom feature. All right. If you go here to our formulas tab, you will see here that we have a portion of this. There is a subgroup in the function library that is for lookup and reference. If you click on this drop down, you see that you have a long list of functions that you can use here to do lookup and to do referencing. We are not going to be speaking about all of this. But for the most part, the functions that you probably will be using mostly when you are handling any sort of lookup operations would be probably a function like VLOOKUP. Maybe some of us have heard about that. HLOOKUP. Then we have the index. We have match. You can use index and match. You have the XLOOKUP. You have the choose, indirect, and a number of other ones. But one important thing with lookup is that once you understand the concept, you are clear about what you want to achieve, then how to achieve it is what you need to find out. In today's class, we'll be talking about VLOOKUP majorly. We probably will get to a point where we'll talk about match. Then once you get this and this to be very clear, there will be some other concepts that we'll be discussing in between. But when you get this very clear, you would be able to find out how to work with the other functions. But what I need from you is not to be bent on knowing all these functions. Remember when we started, it's not about knowing all the functions in Excel. Apparently, you can't know all the functions in Excel. But what is most important is that you get a good hang of the functions you'll be using day to day, and you understand the kinds of operations you'll be doing day to day. When both are clear, then you need to just find out if, in case some of these functions that you already do know will not solve the particular case that you find yourself in, what you need to do is just to find out which other function you can use, or which other combination of functions can you use to solve that case. So let's start with this. One important thing here when we talk about the VLOOKUP function is that VLOOKUP has 4 arguments. VLOOKUP has 4 arguments. If you do equal to VLOOKUP like this, if I do equal to VLOOKUP like this, you see that we have 4 arguments here, but I want somebody to quickly point out to me how many optional arguments do we have? How many optional arguments do we have here? How many optional arguments do we have on this? We have 1 optional argument. Excellent. The first argument that you have here, there's a reason why I asked, and we'll get back to you. Somebody said 5, somebody said 4. Please, one important thing in your analysis journey is for you to pay attention. You have to always pay attention. If you do not get an instruction clear, do not guess, do not assume, do not do what you think or whatever comes to your mind. You must clarify, you must ask questions. Curiosity, asking questions is what you would make you scale properly in your analysis journey. You don't want to assume. All right. If you look at the arguments that we have here, the very first one is the lookup value. Think about the lookup value. You know now, when we say we want to look up something, it means that we have, for example, table A and we have table B. Now, on table A, we have, let's say we have name. I just want us to understand this concept clearly. We have class and we have age. Table B, we have name, we have salary, we have number of children. Now, what we want to do is, if you look closely at what we have here for our table A and table B, what you would realize is that table A has some columns and table B has some other columns. The idea about VLOOKUP, or the idea about lookup, so it's clearer this time around, is that you have something on a table like table B that you need to bring to a table like table A. There are some things that you have on a table like table B that you need to bring to a table like table A. When you are in a situation like this, it means that you need to look up those things from table B so that you can bring them into table A. That is another way to explain lookup. You need to look up those things that you need from table B so that you are able to bring them into table A. When we now talk about VLOOKUP, I just said that VLOOKUP has 4 arguments. We have the lookup value. Lookup value. We have the table array. We have the column index norm, and we have range lookup. All right, these are the 4 arguments that we have. Think about your lookup value. Please, let's get this very clear. Think about your lookup value as whatever column that is common between your two tables, the two tables that you're considering. Whatever column that you have on both tables can be your lookup value. And most times, most cases will be your lookup value. So lookup value is sorted, which is, in this case, what will be our lookup value on these two tables? Based on my definition now, what will be your lookup value? Name. Excellent. Name will be our lookup value in this case. Good. Table array. Your table array is that table that has what you want to return. Whatever you are looking for is seated on the table array. Remember that we have two tables. There is a table that you are currently in, which would be the destination. There is a second table, which will be the source. That is where you want to go and bring something from. Your table array in the VLOOKUP argument is that second table where you want to return something from, the source where you want to get something from to bring into the destination. If this explanation is clear, looking at table A and table B, what then is your table array? What will be your table array? Okay, somebody said table B, somebody said table A, somebody says salary. Salary is a column, not a table. Okay, thanks a lot for our answers. We already would see that I successfully created a confusion here, which is what will be the table array? It's actually dependent on where you want to return something from. Okay, so the follow-up question would have been that what do I want to return, or what do I want to fetch? So if I say that I want to fetch the salary column into table A, then my table array will become table B. If I say that I want to fetch class column into table B, then that means that my table array would be table E, or table A rather. Does this make sense to you, everybody? Does this make sense to everybody? All right. So, which is a case of, in this case now we are assuming. So let's assume that I need this salary column. I need it to come into table A. That's what I want to do. So if I need a salary column to come into table A, then table B would become my table array. That is where I'm sourcing it from. Then the next argument is the column index norm. Column index norm is what is the position of the column that you want to return on the table array. On that table array now that you've identified, which is where you want to return something from, what is now the position of that column on that table? That is the column index norm. Think about it this way. These three columns that you have here, they would be arranged in a way like this. So they will be arranged like this. Name, salary, column on this particular table. Your column index number is now saying that when you look at these three columns on this table, what position is the salary column on this particular table? First column will take 1 as a number. Second column will take 2. Third column will take 3. So if you want to return salary, from a table like this, salary would be on position 2, which means that column index norm would be 2. Are we still good up to this point? Are we on the same page? Are we still in power? All right. Then the last thing is we have the range lookup. Range lookup is asking, what kind of lookup do you want to do? Power to the people. Thank you. What kind of lookup do you want to do? There are two kinds of lookup you can do. It's either you are doing an exact match or an approximate match. What exact match mean is that you want to go and look for, let me give us an example. So let's say that we have, this is just an example. We have on table A, there is Mary, there is Omolara, there is Ido. And on table B, we have Omo, we have Lara, and we have Ido. If you want to look up these names, on these names, which is another table, you can decide how you want to do it, whether exact or approximate. Exact means that pick this Mary, go and look for it exactly on this other table. If you cannot find any name that is written exactly as Mary, then do not return anything. That is exact match. Approximate match is look at the names here. For example, pick Omolara. Go and look for Omolara on this side. If you find Omolara good, return whatever is the corresponding result. If you don't find Omolara, then give me whatever is closest to Omolara. So whatever will be closest to Omolara, maybe will be Omo. Then return whatever I need to be returned for me. So that's the idea behind exact and approximate. Excellent. It will be exact. So exact means that go and look for whatever I'm looking for exactly how it is written on the other side. But when we say that exactly how it is written, it doesn't imply cases. It doesn't mean that if Idowu here is written in small letters, then it will not see it. It will still see it. What we just need is that it's written the same way in terms of the composition of letters and maybe if there are some other characters with it. That's what it means. For the most part, you will be using exact match. Let me give us a practical scenario. I'll come back to that practical scenario of when you should use an approximate match. But let me quickly rerun the VLOOKUP argument. This has to be clear before we go to apply it so that you're not confused. So, excuse me. This is a case. You have a table A, which has this set of columns. You have a table B, which has this set of columns. This table A does not have the salary column, which is on table B. On table A, we now need to work with the salary column, so we need to go fetch it from table B. This operation of having to fetch what you need from elsewhere is what is called lookup in Excel. Now, there are a number of functions you can use for lookups in Excel. You will see that under the Formulas tab in the reference lookup and reference subgroup. The one we are considering is VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP has 4 arguments. 3 are mandatory, 1 is optional. The first 3 here, they are the mandatory arguments. The last one is the optional argument. But whenever you omit the last one, it defaults to approximate. So you need to bear that in mind. So when you are doing your VLOOKUP and you see that it looks like you are getting some funny results because you omitted the range lookup, then know that what VLOOKUP is doing is an approximate match. So if you want to do exact match, you have to force it to do exact match for you, which means you must not omit the last argument. Lookup value in the VLOOKUP argument is whatever you have on both sides. In the case of these two tables, you have the name on table A, you have the name on table B. Your name column can be the lookup value. It is what you have on both sides. Table array, that is the table that you are fetching something from. Wherever you are fetching something from is going to be your table array. This case, because we want to fetch salary column from table B, then table B becomes the table array. Column index number. On that table B now, which is your table array, there is a particular column of interest for you that you want to fetch into table A in this case. That column is the salary column. What column index number is now asking is, in the arrangement of the columns on table B, what position is the salary column? In this case, it is in the second position. That means that your column index number will be 2, which is essentially saying that what position is the column that you want to fetch from your table array is. That is what column index number means. Last one, range lookup, is what kind of lookup do you want to do? Exact or approximate? Exact would mean that go find what I have against what is on the source A to A. Match it exactly. If you find a match, return the corresponding result that I need. If you do not find a match, tell me you do not find a match, which is a way of saying that return an error. Approximate match is you can't find a match, guess what is next or what is closest to it. Excel will determine what is closest to it. It's either whether alphabetical order or by number or in whatever form. Excel will determine what is closest to what you have asked it to find, which it cannot, and then will return that result to you. So that is the difference. And I said that your range lookup would always default to an approximate match. If you want it to be exact, you have to specify that it must be an exact match. All right. The case where you would want to use an approximate match, and I want to say this because for the most part of what you will be doing, you'll be doing an exact match for the most part of it. A case, practical case for when you'll be doing approximate match is, for example, if you are analyzing students' results. This is an example. You know, when you have students' results, people will be placed on different grades. So maybe you have grade A, B like this, maybe up to let's say is that F also? Why is this not bringing few cities for me? Anyways, so D, E, and F. So you have this like this, and then maybe they will say that A is A 70 or 80. Let's put it at 70. Then maybe B is 60 to 70. Maybe C is 50 to 60, to 59 rather. Then D will be 40 to 49. E will be, what will be E? That will be 30. And then F will be 20. I think we are quite accommodating in our school. So it's only when somebody gets an F, it gets 20, that's when it gets F. Anyways, when you have a case like this, so you have people's scores. So you have different people in the school. Maybe this all their names like this. Everybody in the school is Ade for some reason, and then you have the different scores like this. So the scores are between 0 and 100. That's what everybody got. And now you want to have a column here that will tell us what the grade the person actually got is. All right. 44 is F in your school. Interesting. Thank God I didn't go to your school. Maybe I would have gotten bunches of Fs. Okay. So what we want to do here is this first Ade, we want to grade him. What did he get? With 94 or with a score of 94, would he be graded A or what? This Ade here that got 47, what would this guy be graded? Would he, obviously the guy will fall in the D category because he didn't get up to 50, so he will be in the D category. Ade here that got 30, so this guy that got 30 would be in what category? So we want to bring these guys to want to use it to grade these guys here. So this is a typical case for when you would use an approximate match. Why would you use an approximate match? Because there is always every tendency that you will not find the exact score that you are looking for on your scale. All right. So you will not, most times, you will not find the exact scores that you are looking for on your scale. The only exact score that you see here is 30, which matches directly with E. So what approximate would do is that it's going to pick each of these as the upper bound to say that anything 70 and above, it will take it to be 94. If that score that we are considering is below 70, but not up to, is below 70 and then above 60, it will give the person a B. If the score is this one that is 1, it looks at this. The last thing here is 20, which is for F. It means that that particular score is below 20 and the person gets a F. So this is how this is a case for when you would use the approximate match. Does this make sense to us? But most times in business, you are mostly doing an exact match, except you're working as an analyst in a school or in a similar setting where you might want to be doing this kind of grading. That's when typically you may want to be using approximate match. But for the most part of it, you want an exact match, apple for apple, bread for bread. That's what you want in most cases. So let's go now to apply our VLOOKUP. All right. Somebody has done the analysis. Thank you. ADEDFFF. Okay, interesting. All right, so let's come here to do our VLOOKUP. What we want to do is this. I've explained all the arguments for VLOOKUP. Looking at what we have here, the data set we have here, remember, this database, this is where we want to populate. This is the destination. Simple salary structure worksheet, this is the source. So I want everybody now, first, tell me what is the lookup value based on the explanation that I provided. What is the lookup value? Look at it very well. What is the lookup value based on my explanation? Somebody said basic. You need to look at it closely. Somebody says salary. I don't know where you found salary. Somebody says salary and children. Where? We are looking at our file now, not my own example again. What is the lookup value? That is what I'm asking. Lookup value. Grade level. Grade level will be the lookup value because that is what you have here, which you can find on the other side here. So you see that the items you have in the level column here matches exactly with the items you have with the grade level column. So that is your lookup value. Next, what is the table array? 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 Okay, so simple salary structure, which is this, because that is where we want to fetch something from. Excellent. Okay, let's proceed. We are making good progress. If we now want to populate basic, so which means we want to look up basic from the table array that you've identified, what would be the column index norm? What would be the column index norm? You have the file. You don't need me to, I don't need to zoom into it. You have the file with you, so you can look at it from your device. What is the column index norm if we want to populate basic? Okay, 2. That is the column index norm. Excellent. All right, so let's write our VLOOKUP then. Let's write this now, since we now understand the anybody that said 1 or 3, most likely the person has missed out of something. You need to rewind to go get yourself updated. Somebody said 9. Interesting. All right, so how do we start? I do equal to VLOOKUP like this, equal to VLOOKUP. We have set that semi-senior here will be my lookup value. So I'll select this as the lookup value, comma, what is the table array? So I will need to go to my simple salary structure worksheet. I will go here, navigate to this worksheet, and I will highlight everything like this. I'll highlight everything like this, save for the header. I'm not highlighting the headers with it. And then I'll put a comma here for the column index norm. We said this would be 2 based on the fact that we want to populate basic, which is the second column. Level is column 1, basic is column 2. I'll put a 2 here, column index norm. And the last argument here, which is the optional argument, is range lookup. What kind of lookup do you want to do? Approximate match or true, false, which means exact match. In this case, we'll be selecting exact match. We don't want approximate numbers. So I'll select false exact match like this. I can also put 0 instead of typing false. I'll close the bracket and I'll hit enter. Once I do that correctly, we get this returned as the basic salary. Let me do that again. Equal to VLOOKUP. Equal to VLOOKUP. This is our lookup value, semi-senior. That is the lookup value. comma, table array. I'll come here to this simple salary structure worksheet, and I'll come to highlight everything here. Save for the headers. Then I'll put a comma here to say that 2, that is what I want to return, which is the basic salary. And another comma here, and I can put a 0 instead of false. It works the same way, and you can put 1 instead of true. I'll close my brackets. Excuse me, what did I do? I wrote something. All right, I'll do VLOOKUP, semi-senior. Somebody's here looking for attendance. You're not concentrating. I'll come here to the simple salary structure. I'll highlight everything here like this. How do you highlight everything? Click on the first thing, the first cell under level. Once you click on the first cell under level, Control Shift forward arrow, that would highlight everything to the right. Control Shift down, highlight everything to the bottom. Once you have highlighted everything like this, put a comma 2, which is the column index number for basic, and false, which is for exact match. If I close my brackets now and I hit enter, I get back this for the basic. If you got this, paste your code on the chat for me. All right, so some got it, some did not. Kemi, you omitted the last argument, which is the range lookup. You probably will get a different number in case it's possible. All right, so let me do this again. This will be the last time I'm doing this. If you didn't get it, pay rapt attention now. So you pick it now, and then so we can move together. All right, so I do equal to VLOOKUP, equal to VLOOKUP like this. I'll select semi-senior. That is what I want to go look up on the other side. I'll put a comma here. Then my table array is on another worksheet. So I'll go to the simple salary structure worksheet. I'll go to simple salary structure worksheet. I will highlight this entire table, but how do I highlight? Just click on the first cell on the left, excuse me. Click on the first cell on that level. Control Shift right arrow to select everything to the right. Control Shift down arrow to select everything to the bottom. So somehow you've highlighted the entire table this way. Once you've done this, comma 2, you don't need to go back to that worksheet. So it continues, yeah? You don't necessarily need to. If you go back, it's still fine, but you don't need to. 2 for the column index number for basic. And then I'll select false for exact match. I'll close my bracket, hit enter, and here we go. Semi-senior 483646. Are we on the same page now, everybody? Why I highlight everything? You just joined the class, obviously. You catch up. Why did you use false instead of true? You catch up, Adegoke, you just joined, obviously. I explained that a while ago. All right. So once you've done for the first one, everybody, as usual, you know that once you've applied the formula for the cell, the first cell, you can copy down the formula by double clicking the fill and do. So go there to do that and tell me what you see. Okay, there's NA, good. All right, you're getting NA, okay. It filled all for you, Tofumi. It's not possible. Not applicable from row 18, okay. It filled up to manager, all right. All right, there's a reason why it's happened that way. There's a reason why, and there are a number of ways to address it. But let me quickly show us why we are getting that. So everybody just look at my screen for now. Everybody look at my screen for now. So if I try to minimize this slightly so I can see the formula bar and this, good. If I go some cells downward like this, I have NA here. I have NA here. So what NA means is either it says not available or not applicable. What it just means is that what you need, what you ask me to go get, I can find it. That's what NA means. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's because manager is not on that table. So a reason why you would have NA is maybe what you're looking for is not on the table array. But in this case, that is not what happened. If you look at this is one manager here, and it returned the value correctly. So why did it not return anything from manager here? Rather, we got any. The simple reason is that, let's look at it together. One very crucial skill set you must have, especially when working with Excel, is auditing your formula yourself. You need to be able to look at your formula to figure out what has changed or what is changing or what happened. Are there some level of inconsistency? You need to be able to figure that out from your formula. If I come back to the first one here, If I come back to the first one, I won't tell us. So I need you guys to figure it out yourself. So look at this. But what I want you to keep your eyes on is from here. This simple salary structure B8 to I16. This is what I need you to put your eyes on. Now, for the first one, it is B8 to I16. Let me go down to the next one. I'll go down to the next one. I'll go down to the next one. I'll go down to the next one. What did you notice? You can do the same on your file and let me know. Okay, thank you, Bidapo. What do you notice, everybody? The cells are changing, the ranges are changing, which is the reason why this has happened. So think about it for the moment. At the moment when we are here, you are on this cell. So look at this. Just look at my screen. If I double click this to edit it, you see that B8 to I16, if I come here to the simple salary structure, excuse me, B8 to I16 here is this exact range here. This is B8 down to I16. But as soon as we got to this guy here, when we got to this guy, what is the range the guy is using? B17 to I25. So the guy is using B17 to I25 here. If we come here, let's look for B17 to I25. B17 actually started from here and down to I25. You will notice that the range that was referenced for that particular cell is actually out of our table array. So something happened, which is a concept that you need to understand so you can begin to think around automating your formulas in Excel, but we'll see that when we are back from break. So let's go on our break now. And I think it's also a good time for you to fill out the evaluation, the attendance form, and then we see, we'll look at that when we are back. So we are back in 10 minutes. Enjoy your break, everybody.
You can let me put huh?
All right, well done, everyone, and trust has been an amazing class section. All right, so while we are taking our attendance, please, it is very, very important that we listen to this announcement as well. Please check your emails and accept your Canvas invitation as soon as possible. So, without you doing this, it will be very difficult for you to see any course material from the coming week. It will be difficult for you to submit assignment, and of course, it will be difficult for you to be sure that you have completed your class sections. So please, once your invite expires, it cannot be reissued. We want everyone to please take this very, very seriously. Please, we need you to accept your Canvas invitation and then get yourself onboarded as soon as possible. Now, few things you need to note is that on Canvas LMS, where our LMS, you need to submit your attendance. Then selection of successful candidate would be done via the Canvas LMS, as also the awarding of certificate will be based on the people who are pulled through all of this. So please, we want to encourage that you do well. If you are having issues as regarding the canvas or the LMS, your onboarding or whatever issue you are having, please go to the Telegram page. Let's have those issues resolved as soon as possible, and then you so that you can enjoy your class seamlessly. Thank you as you enjoy your break. Have you ever wondered?
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Are we back here? Are we back here, everybody? Oh, you're still on break. Are my people here? Okay, okay, good. All right. So let's get back to this now. We've seen the problem. The problem is that our table in this reference kept shifting. So it shifted from B18 to I16, went to B9 to I17, went to B10, I18, and it went on like that till it fully went out of the table range. What will solve this is for us to understand a very important concept in Excel, which is the concept of cell referencing. Cell referencing. I need us to understand this very well, everybody. Understand this. Once we pick this once and for all, then we are good. The theory first. Cell referencing just implies how Excel treats whatever cell you are referencing in your calculation. That is what it means. How do you want Excel to treat the cells that you are referencing in your calculation? That's by way of explanation. There are three kinds of cell referencing, or we put it at four, depending. We have absolute, we have relative, we have column constant, column constants, and we have row constants. So the column constant and row constant, that's what some people call mixed referencing. But before we go into these details, whenever you do a calculation like this, let's say you have 2 here, 3, 4 here, and here I have 1, 2, 3. If I come here to this cell, and on this cell I want to have the total, and I do equal to this guy plus this guy, okay? I hit enter, it gives me 3. If I push this one cell downwards, I get 5, which is the correct result for 3 plus 2. The only reason why this is correct is because of cell referencing. Cell referencing implies how your results move or moves with the actual cells you are feeding into that result. Let me go about this. For this to be clear, I will come to this cell. I want to pull out the exact formula that is behind this result. There's a function you can use to do that in Excel, which is formula text. If I do equal to formula text and I reference this cell, I hit enter, that tells us that what is here is, let me just zoom a bit out of this. So it tells us that what is here, I'll just minimize this a bit, minimize this, is V3 plus W3. That's what I did here. What did I do here? This is V4 plus W4, which means that when I dragged my results downward, when I copied down the formula one step downwards, the reference also went a step downwards. Please, I need us to listen to this. Listen to this very well. Attendance is important, but not as important as your learnings. So please do not misplace your priority. this is where we started from. We added up V3 to W3, and then it gave us this. When we drag down this formula a cell downwards, all the references also moved a cell downwards. All references moved a cell downwards. If we go one more cell downwards from V4, W4, like this, you notice that our reference also went a cell downwards, like this. What this tells you is that by default, whenever you are dragging down your formula to subsequent cells, Excel will move any form of reference within that particular formula by the number of steps that you go or you move. If you move your formula one step, Excel would also move the reference by one cell. If you move your formula by two steps, Excel will move your reference by two steps. Does this make sense to everybody? Does it make sense to us? Excellent. All right. This is the default behavior. But there are times that you don't want this default behavior, such that, and this default behavior was exactly what happened in this case. When we drag down our formula by one step, the reference to the lookup value, which initially was E9, it changed to E10. If you see this, it changed to E10, which means that reference also went down one step. But this is not the only thing that we referenced in this formula. We also referenced the table array. So that was why the table array also went down one step. When we went another step downwards, our reference to the lookup value also changed. So it went down a step again, and so did our table array. It also went down a step. This is the default for referencing in Excel. And this is what is called relative referencing. If you come here to the types of referencing that I put here, see that we have a type that is called relative referencing. That one is sorted. I'll give that this. Yeah. Another kind of referencing is that you need to listen. I won't be going back on this because there's quite a bit we need to get to. Another kind of referencing here is the absolute. What absolute just mean is that you want to, let me give us an example. Let's say that we have salaries here. We have salaries here for everybody. And then, okay, I'll just generate some salaries, maybe from 10,000 to 50,000. This, I'll push this down like this, like this. All right. These are salaries for our staff. Then we now want to increase our staff salary by 10%, for example. So we put the 10% here. Increment or percentage increase. Percentage increase, we say that the percentage increase is 10%. What we want to achieve now is to now multiply each of these salaries by 10% to see what will be the 10% for each of the salaries, and then we now calculate what the new salary would be. So let's say I have here increment, and then new salary. So the new salary would be whatever is here plus whatever is here, and then I can take this to the cell. Now, how do we calculate the increment? The way to go about that is to pick each of the salaries and multiply it by 10%. So that obviously will give us by how much this salary would increase. So I can come here to say equal to this guy multiplied by 10%, and I hit enter. So I have this amount here, 3481, 3483 kobo. That is the increment that this particular staff would get. But look at it now. If I come here one step downwards, I get a 0 here. Now we are wondering, why did I get a 0? The reason why we got a 0 is the same reason I explained earlier, which is the default way of managing or how Excel treats references. When we were here, we did this salary multiply by this. If I double click on this cell, you see that we multiply this salary, which is whatever is here, multiplied by the increment. Immediately we dragged our formula to the cell below. Take a look at this. The salary moved to the cell below, which is correct, but the percentage increase also moved one step downwards. It moved one step downwards. And that is why, because nothing is here, so it's more like you are multiplying this salary, 26,000 times nothing. That's why you got a 0. But to explain it further, let's come one more step downwards. If I come one more step downwards, you see that I have a value error here. What happened this time around? If I double click this, you see now we are multiplying the salary on this level multiplied by new salary, which is a text. And that's why we got this value error. All right. So what Excel does by default is that when you drag your formula downwards, any cell or cells that are being referenced in that formula would also shift by the number of cells that you move. Are we following, everybody? Are we following? Are we following? Are we following? Everybody? All right, good. So how do we then resolve this? So which means if I continue like this, my cell would keep moving downwards as I drag the formula downwards. How do we then fix this? What we need to do is to make a decision ahead of time. What decision do we want to make? We want to multiply all these numbers by what is in this cell. All the salaries must be multiplied by 10%. But when we drag down our formula, we don't want this cell to change. We want Excel to always reference this cell regardless of where we are on these salaries. So the way to do that is to do what is called absolute referencing. So they call it absolute referencing. Some people will tell you you need to lock the cell. So how do we then do that? What we need to do is to come here to say equal to, watch this, equal to, select this salary here, multiplied by 10% as it is. Then because we don't want this reference to change, that's the reference for the 10%, we need to now lock it. So you press F4 on your keyboard, When you press F4 on your keyboard, you see that Excel now places a dollar sign behind the column and behind the row. And when this happens, it means that you have an absolute referencing or an absolute locking of that cell, and it means that you have told Excel that it should always refer to this particular cell. I'll hit enter on my keyboard, and when I copy down this formula, you see that I do not get an error here. If I double click this, you'll notice that I'm still multiplying this by the 10% here. I go a step downwards again. This is still being multiplied by the 10%, and everything works the way you want it. Are we still on the same page? Or I take this again. Are we good to go? Okay, take it again. This is it. You come here, equal to, you select the salary here, multiplied by this here, which is the increment, the percentage increase, and you press F4 to lock that cell. You press F4 to lock that cell, and you hit enter on your keyboard. That locks the cell in place, and if I push this down, even when I'm here on the last cell, I double click this to edit it. You see that it's referencing the correct salary, but it's also still looking at the 10% that we have here. All right, so we've touched on two of the kinds of cell referencing. Relative means free to move. Absolute means cannot move. Now that we have looked at these two kinds of referencing, can somebody now propose to us what would fix the issue we ran into on this? Why we got this NA? How do we fix this? How do we fix this? Based on what you've learned now. If your F4 is not working, you can as well, in case your F4 is doing something else, maybe when you press F4 on your keyboard, it's increasing your volume or it's brightening up your screen or something funny, then it means you need to press FN. There's a key, function key, FN before your F4. Alternatively, you can manually place a dollar sign behind the letter and the number. Yeah, so we need to do absolute reference on the table array. So let's come back to our VLOOKUP formula now. So we'll rewrite this. We'll rewrite this equal to VLOOKUP. I'll select this. This is our lookup value, comma. Then we come here to our table array. I would highlight this. But once I've highlighted my table array, I would press F4. I'll press F4 to lock my entire table array in place. Once you have locked your entire table array in place, comma, 2, that is for basic, comma, false, excuse me, or I just put 0 here. So 0 is still false. I'll hit enter. This works for this one. And when you pull this down now, you should have all your results. So everybody, do that and confirm it worked for you. All right. If this worked for everybody, one thing you would also notice is before this time, B8 to I16, as we were moving down the cells, was changing to B9 to I17, B10 to I18. But now you will see that it's all B8 to I16, regardless of whichever cell you click on. The table array is always B8 to I16. That is the essence of absolute referencing or locking the cell. Problem resolved. But let's do something again, everybody. Let's do something. The way to work it with Excel, think about it this way. You want to only do something once. You don't want to be repeating the same thing. Yeah? You don't want to be repeating the same thing over and again, over and again, over and again. You want to be able to do it once. And once it's done once, you can just copy down your formula the way we have just done. And then you can also copy your formula to the right. We have done this for semi-senior, for this guy. If I copy my formula to the right, like this, I get NA. Somebody should do this. Tell me if you also got NA and tell me why you think you got NA. So just drag your formula to the right by using this fill undo, or you can stay on this cell to the right and press Ctrl R. So that will also copy the formula to the right. Think about it very well. Why do you think you have the NA? Why? All right. Good try, everybody. I see some correct results in between. You don't need to struggle about it. You don't need to struggle about what is happening. When we want to get the result for housing, we want to know how much housing allowance will this person get. What would be the lookup value? What is the lookup value? You want to get how much is the housing. What will be the lookup value in this case? I want us to respond to that. No one is responding to my question yet. What will be the lookup value? Grade level, excellent. So grade level is still supposed to be the lookup value. But look at what happened. When we copied our formula to the right, the lookup value changed. So if I double click this, you see that the lookup value moved from being E9, which is the grade level, to F9, which is now basic. So what you're saying is you should go and look for 483,646 under the column for grade level. You will never find it. That's why it returned NA. Which now begs for the question, how do you now fix this? How do you ensure that when you drag your formula to the right, your lookup value would always be column E? Then that is what will bring us to the next kind of lookups, which is our cell referencing, which is now the column constant and the row constant. Column constant and row constant just mean what you want to fix. What you want to fix. Do you want, when you do absolute referencing, as we did for this case. We locked the entire cell. We just mean that we locked the column Z, and we locked the row 7. That is what absolute referencing does. But when you want to do column constant or row constant, then you will either, by column constant, it means that you'll be locking only column Z. Your row would be free. When you do row constant, you will be locking your row, which is 7, column will be free. How then do you know that you are doing column constant or row constant? What you need to look at is where do you have the dollar sign. So for column constant, you would have something like $U7, which is ideally supposed to be cell U7, but because you've locked the column, so you see $U7, and for row constant, you see something like $7. But when it is absolute, you see $U7. And when it is relative, what you will see is U7. Do we understand this? You see U7 as it is in this case, V3, W3. This is all relative. Use $U7. This is absolute, as you would have seen in this case, $Z7. Then when you lock only the column, only the letter would have a dollar sign. When you lock only the row, only 7, only the number would have a dollar sign. How do you know what to lock? You need to make a decision. In this case here, we want to be able to copy our formula to the right, and wherever we are, even when we are under transport, we want to still be able to use the grade level column as our lookup value. If I'm under leave, I want to still use the grade level column as the lookup value, which means that I want to always reference column E. Since I want to always reference column E, then what I will need to do is to lock column E and not lock the row. So because I will not lock the row because I want this to be able to move downwards. When I copy the formula downwards, I want row 7 to change to row 8, to row 9, to row 10. But when I move it from left to right, I don't want column E to become column F, to become column G for my lookup value. Does this make sense to anybody at all? All right. So if this is clear, Felicia, don't worry, you are trying. You get it. Janet, you are lost. You can't be lost. Nobody can be lost in this class. You'll catch up. Don't worry. All right. So if this is clear, what you need to do is this. Ideally, you could have just come to this cell and then change this back to E9. But we are teaching ourselves to be efficient. You don't want to be doing things repeatedly. So we'll come here to our formula again. I'll take all of this out. Excuse me. So I'll rewrite my VLOOKUP quickly. Go to VLOOKUP. Select this. I'll come here to this. Highlight this guy. F4 to lock. 2 and false. I got this. Then where I have my E9 in this formula, so I'll click within and then I'll press F4. If you press it the first time, it locks, it gives you absolute, which is locking both the column and the row. If you press the second time, it locks only the row, it leaves the column open. If you press the third time, it locks the column now, leaves the row open. If I press again, it gives us back relative referencing, which is the column is free to move, the row is free to move. So I'll come back here to E. So E has to be locked. That is the column we want to always reference for our lookup value. So once I lock column E like this, I leave row 9 up. I hit enter. This would work for this. I double click this down and I can push this one step to the right. Yes, we do not have any A's now, but at least we are close to it. Don't worry, you may have to catch up with the recording. Yeah. All right. So everybody knows what's the reason why we have the same number as we have for basic. Do we all know the reason why? If you join the class from the start till now, you should have an answer to this. So tell me. You can toggle the F4 button 4 times, Ayodeji. So if you toggle it, if you click on F4 the first time, it gives you absolute. It locks the column and the row. Second time, it locks just the row. Third time, it locks just the column. Fourth time, it doesn't lock anything. So you can toggle it 4 times. Why do you have the same number? Why do you have the same results as we have for basic under housing now? Excellent, Ibukun. Thank you for that. I wish I can send you chocolates. So the reason why is because of the column index number. In our formula, the column index number we are still referencing is that of basic. So if you come here, see that basic is on the second column. So that's what we asked it to return. So if you want to return housing now, what will be our column index number? If you want to return housing, what will be your column index number? It will be 3. Excellent. So if you update that to be 3, then you get your result. So if I just make this 3 now, I get the result for housing. I can push this down, and by that, you've actually completed everything. So the only thing you just need to do from here is just to change your column index number. Are we good up to this point? So you can copy your formula way to the right, and you just update your column index number, and you have everything populated correctly. Yeah, it's understandable, especially for those of you that you joined lately at the start, or for those of you that you were distracted, maybe with attendance or something else. Once you miss a detail in between, that was why I said at the start I needed you to pay rapt attention. So once you miss a detail in between, you definitely will not be on the same page with the class. So you need to go back to the entire recording after the class, and you patiently watch and follow through from the start. Then whatever gray areas you have, you will have it sorted that way. So those of you that you still are on the same page, you do you have your result for everything, all the columns now? Do you have your result for the entire columns? Okay. All right. Well done, everybody. So, interestingly, we've been able to, we started with understanding the concept of lookup. We narrowed it down to VLOOKUP, and then we used VLOOKUP to fetch this information that we need. Like I mentioned, VLOOKUP is not the only function that does lookup. There are some other functions that do lookup that I spoke about earlier, just depending on your scenario. But for now, VLOOKUP should solve most of the cases you'll be in. A case that VLOOKUP may not solve is probably if you do not have, if the first column from your table array where you are highlighting does not have your lookup value. So one condition for lookup value to work properly is that when you are highlighting your table array, you should highlight the first column that will be in the highlighted area should be your lookup value. That is the first column that you should have your highlighted area. Number 2 point I want to highlight here is that you can have a table like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that you must highlight the entire table to fetch what you need as your table array. You can as well just highlight, if for instance, the only thing we want to return on that table is just the basic and the housing, I can as well just highlight these 3 columns, my lookup value, what I want to return, and then this would work just fine. I'm just pointing this out in case you find yourself in a scenario where you have very long table and you're thinking you need to highlight the entire long table as a table array before your VLOOKUP will work. No, you don't need to. You just need to ensure that you highlight the range that you need and make sure that the first column within that range has your lookup value. That is what you need to do. If your F4 is not working, I said it a number of times, you can manually put your $sign behind your column and your row. That would still work. Yeah. So let's pay attention. You shouldn't be distracted in a class like this. So you don't have to do double work. Because to me, if you're watching recording over and again, it's just too much work. And you could have just gotten everything in the class if you paid attention. You are teaching, people are asking for Telegram group, you're asking for attendance, all of those will get you distracted more. There are rooms for that. You receive emails from your from the organizers. You can reach out to the coordinators via email for whatever link, and maybe the link would have been shared via emails with you guys too. So just ensure that you pay rapt attention in class, and then you also prioritize your learning over any other thing. Let's see if you can attend to some questions now before we call it a wrap for the day. What if we have more than one lookup value? Yes, that is very possible, and there's a way you can do that, but we won't do that in this class. It's a bit advanced for this class. How are you navigating to the next worksheet without you moving your cursor? So you can move your cursor. Alternatively, if you come here now and I do control page up, so if you press control page up, it goes to the cell before, this sheet before rather. Control page up will take me to the worksheet before, control page down will take me to the sheet after. So you can use control page up to navigate your worksheet in the workbook. Okay, those are the 2 questions I see here. Let me see if there's any other one. Can we write the formula for each column if you can't get this whole complexity of locking columns? Damilola, don't think it's complex. Put your mind to it that you'll get it. Because when you get to scenarios that you need to look up for 20, 30 columns, I'm sure you don't want to do it repeatedly. Why is Excel converting 12 digits to something like, I don't understand what you mean. How do we know the particular cell to lock? You need to understand the problem you are trying to solve. Even after putting the $sign, it's not working. You didn't get something right. Go back to the recording. What can we do if you have to look up maybe in between the cell like transport and leave? How can we select in between like transport and leave? Let me see. So you want to, okay, so you only want to return transport and leave. Excellent question. So what you would do in this case is to still highlight from the beginning down to transport and leave, and then your column index number, because you highlighted things that you still don't need, so it will be 0 1, sorry, 1 2 3 4. Transport will be 4, leave will be 5. So just ensure that the entire range that you're highlighting covers your lookup value down to the columns that you need. um is it possible to get a file in Excel for all these functions? You can get that online. How did you copy the formula to the next column? How did you copy the formula to the next column? Okay, so what you need to do here, if I want to copy the formula on this particular cell, I want to copy it here. It's still the same fill and do that you double click that copies it down. You can drag it to the right like this. Alternatively, I can come here to this cell, I do Control R, and it will copy the formula to the right for me. And if you want to copy the formula down, Control D copies it down. So I can highlight a range of cells like this and I do Control D, it copies the formula down. I can highlight all these cells and do Control R, it copies all the formula to the right. Control page down, yes. What if the column we want to look up is leave and use? Is there a way to do that without copying the whole table? I answered that already. Where can we get practice worksheets? You just joined the class. Why is housing amount constant? If you look at the simple salary structure, you get your answer. What if the column we want to look up answered, if the cell I need is F, can I hide C to E? Don't hide it. So what you can do alternatively is, if you feel that you don't need all of this, create another table that has just column B and column F, and then you highlight those two columns. That's the alternative you have. What can we do if you have to look up maybe in between? Please use the dollar manually and show you. There's it. If I come here, this, I do equal to this multiplied by this. Then I come here behind Z, I put a dollar sign, behind 7, I put a dollar sign, and I hit enter. That's what I asked you to do. All right. So how can you get the class recording for previous class? You need the run between function. How did you do that? That values aren't updating. Okay. So what you would do if you do if I do equal to runs between 10,000, 1,000 to 5,000 like this, and I copy this down, you see that the numbers will be updating by default. If I don't want these numbers to update, I will highlight it this way, Control C to copy it. Then I will do what is called paste special. So I'll press Alt ESV. When I press Alt ESV, it gives me this dialog box and I just click on OK. So what this does is paste special. I want to paste the numbers here. Whatever I say, I want to paste it as values. So I want Excel to take out all the formulas, because the reason why the numbers are updating, if I do anything here now, I type most in here, you see that the numbers changed again. The reason why it's changing is there are no actual numbers here. What is here is still the formula. If I look at this one, you see that it's still formula that's here. This one is still the formula that's here. So the formula would keep recalculating. That's why the numbers will keep changing. So if I do Control C, Alt ESV to get me this space special dialog box, now I've asked it to paste values only. Just paste as values. So which means take out whatever formula is behind this. I click on OK. Now, if you look at what we have on the formula bar now, you see now that you do not have any formula behind those numbers. They are just numbers, and this will never update again. All right. So let me see if there's another one. The first step to log blah blah blah. There is a, what do you press for control page down? There are two keys on your keyboard. PG up, PG down. This is page up and this is page down. That's what I referred to. So press control, page up if you want to go a worksheet behind, control, page down if you want to go a worksheet ahead. How do I move to the right without copying and pasting? I don't understand. I hope you will repeat this particular lesson tomorrow because networks, I will not repeat it, sir or ma. Please explain relative cell referencing. Please watch the recording, ma. How did you log the whole salary structure? It's in the recording. Which one is FN? So also on your keyboard, you see FN as a key. There's a key that has FN. It's not F separate, N separate. No, those ones are letters. There's a particular key that would have FN. So you need to press that FN alongside F4 if your F4 did not work. How did you get the gross pay? This is the gross pay column here. Yeah, just use this column for the gross pay. Yeah. Can the table array be in Word format? What does that mean? How did you delete the content in all the cell? Highlight the cell and press delete on your keyboard. All right. So looks like a heaven of questions here. So we can't take them all. All right. Thank you, everybody. One thing you can do for me is, even if you think you got everything from today's class, go back to the recording and repractice everything that we did today before our class tomorrow. So when we come to our class tomorrow, we are going into something entirely different, which I'm sure would interest every one of you. But we'll not come back to this. So you need not to pile up the learnings for today. Make sure you take your time to review or revisit the recording, more especially for those of you that you missed some parts of the class today. All right, so by God's grace, we'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the class. It was a very amazing session. Thank you, ID, for the wonderful session. Kindly pay attention to the following announcements. Onboarding on the LMS, Learning Management System, Canva by Structure, is very important because as from next week, all classes will be held on the LMS. Your attendance will be taken on the LMS. All assignments will be done on the LMS. Quizzes will be taken on the LMS. Grading of assignments and quizzes will be done by the LMS as well. So you see that it is very important to onboard the LMS. If you have not done so, kindly do so before the end of this week. It is very crucial for your assessment and grading in this training. Thank you once again for your consistency. Have a restful night. Good night.
Have you ever